Did you know there is a location in the UK where 120 square miles turn from land to sea every day? And because of that, is an area of special scientific interest and has been coined Nature's Amphitheatre. Only an hour north of Manchester, 3 miles from Lancaster, which has a direct line into London and Glasgow, and just 30 minutes from the largest and most famous lake in the Lake District, Lake Windermere, we are of course talking about Morecambe. A place with a rich history of shaping trends not only in the UK, but also around the world. In this programme, we are visiting Morecambe and meeting with Simon Das, an individual who has been investing in the regeneration of the area for the last 2 decades and is a proud supporter of the area. We will be looking at what led to the decline of Morecambe during the 70s and 80s, what is being done to regenerate the area, and why Morecambe is now one of the hottest places in the country to consider investing into. You are watching the Regeneration of Morecambe. In this programme, Simon Das, an investor and proud supporter of the area, will be showing us around Morecambe and highlighting all the key aspects of its regeneration. But first, let's find out what brought Simon to the area. After finishing university, Simon's wife got offered a job in Morecambe and the couple moved into the area. They had a plan to purchase a property to live in, refurbish it, rent it out, and then move out of the area. However, 10 years later, it turns out that they fell in love with the area so much that they didn't move out. They continued to live in the house and additionally invest elsewhere in the area. Friends and acquaintances saw what Simon was doing and the return he was achieving and were keen to get involved. What evolved over a period of time was a business founded by Simon that covers most aspects of property, from investment to finance, but all pointing back to the regeneration of Morecambe.
Well, Morecambe was a thriving seaside town. For 100 years it was the place to be in the north of England, up until the sort of 50s and 60s. So there's a rich culture, rich history, amazing architecture. So it was a thriving tourist town and a heart of culture for the north of England with, I think it had 7 theatres, multiple cinemas, dance halls. The Entertainer was filmed here. Obviously you've got Morecambe and Wise that originated in the area. So Dame Thora Hird, all sorts of stars used to frequent the theatres of Morecambe, particularly the Winter Gardens, which is undergoing restoration right now. But throughout the 70s and 80s, when foreign travel became a lot cheaper, the town itself declined. But what it's got is all that raw culture and history that people are starting to tap back into. People are getting quite nostalgic about the seaside breaks in the UK. We've seen how Margate has gone from a forgotten seaside town to a thriving, hip place to be, with the opening of the Turner Gallery down there a few years back. That really catalysed growth. We're starting to see more and more people bolt on a couple of days in Morecambe to their trip to the Lake District. It's only 30 minutes drive between Morecambe and Lake Windermere, the largest lake in the Lake District. So it makes sense to just come and enjoy the bay. It's incredible looking across the bay to the Lakeland Fells with the sunsets over there every evening. But less people have noticed that for the last couple of decades, but that's starting to come back round. But with property prices still well below the national average and rental yields higher than the national average, it made great sense for me to look to invest here.
Morecambe actually has a slogan, which is "Beauty surrounds, health abounds," coming from the 19th century, when Morecambe was a significant holiday destination for people coming from all around the UK and indeed around the globe. Although it is no secret that Morecambe has undergone significant decline from that time, it is actually this that piqued the interest of the world-renowned Eden project, currently only situated in the south of England, which will now be coming to Morecambe in 2025 with Eden Project North. Eden Project North will be a major new attraction in Morecambe. It will be a destination that combines indoor and outdoor experiences, connecting people with the internationally significant natural environment of Morecambe Bay, while also enhancing well-being. The team behind the project say the project has far-reaching environmental, social and economic ambitions, but above all, it will be a day out that inspires a sense of wonder and connection with the natural world.
So we're on the site of what is to be the Eden Project North. They will be building here next year in 2023, and it will be a 2-year build, hopefully opening in 2025. So Eden Project North is loosely based on what they've done in Cornwall with an immersive indoor-outdoor experience. So there'll be 4 large biomes in this area and also an outdoor arena for 4,000 people to come and enjoy events and music. This project is going to be a catalyst of growth. It's going to completely transform the local microeconomy. There'll be 750,000 to 1 million visitors a year attending, and it will pump 2 billion into the local economy. So with that comes a lot of regeneration, lots of businesses expanding. It's expected to create about 6,500 jobs in the local area due to the increased tourism and all the associated services that need to run alongside this project. 6,500 jobs in this local area is loosely equivalent to 20% of the town's population getting a new job out of it. So over the next 10 to 20 years, it's really going to help to transform the town.
The Eden Project North will undoubtedly bring huge amounts of tourism, interest, and therefore investment to Morecambe and the surrounding areas. However, even without this project, the area is undergoing a substantial resurgence of popularity. One catalyst for this was the Link Road.
So the Link Road to the M6 was promised and spoken about for, I think, 50 or 60 years. So it was always this thing that may happen. And in 2015, 2016, it finally opened. So that means the M6 is just 10 minutes drive from Morecambe. You can get to Lake Windermere in 30 minutes, to Manchester in an hour. And it's allowed for the port to expand, and it's given confidence to other businesses that they'll get more passing trade and more people will make that visit to Morecambe on the way up to the lakes or up to Scotland. So we've seen local people who have lived in the area for a long time and who have done well in business over the past 5 or 6 years really start investing in the area. One example is the Broadway Apartments, an old hotel, the Broadway Hotel, that fell into disrepair and sadly was lost. A local developer took it upon himself to acquire that plot of land and to build some very high-end luxury apartments. When he decided to carry out that development, the most expensive 2-bed sea-view apartment in Morecambe was selling for around about £100,000. Now it's difficult to build for that sort of money, so building at a profit at that time was quite tricky in Morecambe. He built 50 luxury apartments and he sold the penthouse for £660,000. And the cheapest 1-beds were selling for £170,000, £180,000. Now this man is a local architect. He's worked and lived in the area for a long time, and he felt then was the time to create what must have been a £20 million development on the seafront in Morecambe. This is long before talk of the Eden Project as well. And we've seen other examples of this with local entrepreneurs acquiring run-down hotels, turning them into quite high-end bistros, and the amount of business that these places attract overnight is incredible, and it just shows if you build quality in Morecambe, there is people who want to go there, there are people who can afford to spend their money there, and it will be successful.
Amongst other destinations, the Winter Gardens Theatre and the Midland Hotel are two examples of businesses that are directly feeling the effect of these infrastructure projects. The Winter Gardens Theatre attracting shows and exhibitions that are both nationally and internationally acclaimed. For example, Luc Duram's world-famous Mars artwork, seen here, that has also been displayed in locations such as the Museum of Natural Science in the USA, the Natural History Museum in London, and other locations in Australia, France and Germany, to name just a few. Another example is the Midland Hotel, a striking Art Deco hotel located right on the coast. The hotel was first opened in the 1930s in the height of the Art Deco period as a real luxury statement in the area, built with visitors in mind that would be arriving on the west coast of England on ships from America. On its opening day, there were guests such as Coco Chanel and Laurence Olivier, and for decades it was the place to be in the north of England. In fact, after the hurricanes reduced much of Miami to rubble in the early 20th century, the architects tasked with the rebuild of the city came to Europe to find architectural inspiration. One of the many places they stayed was the Midland Hotel. Now, when you look at the Art Deco district in Miami, you can see the influence. One hotel looking almost identical. Unfortunately, as tourism by ship from America decreased and international travel of Brits increased, the area, and particularly the hotel, suffered huge decline.
So the Midland Hotel was brought back to its former glory in 2007, just before the credit crunch. And at the time, most of the other holiday accommodation in Morecambe was B&Bs, and they would maybe charge £20 to £40 a night. So it's a real statement that they put so much money into this business and then looked for those higher rates and to see if they could sustain them. Now the hotel is consistently fully booked. People pay up to £500 a night to stay here. So it really does show that if you provide quality in the area, people are more than willing to pay for it.
Simon isn't just someone watching the regeneration of Morecambe unfold. He is an individual who actively contributes to the regeneration.
Well, when I first started my business in Morecambe in 2011, my idea was to create a socially conscious property management company, lifting standards in the private rental sector, looking after tenants, looking after landlords, and a byproduct of that would have been profit. Now, that was very challenging because there were some quite vulnerable people I was working with, and it was very difficult to actually make an income, make a profit, and allow me to expand and grow in the area. So over the years, I've evolved and brought different services into the business. And now we're actually in a position where we're acquiring rundown properties, we're refurbishing them to a high standard, we're getting committed tenants who are looking after their homes, not houses. And in amongst that, we're giving bits back into the community, such as charitable projects. We've created a large mural on the seafront. We've sponsored other pieces of artwork, and we've put money into the refurbishment of the Winter Gardens and things like that as well. So we're very community-minded, and we're hoping that our little part to play in this will spur others on to start taking a bit more pride in the area.
Simon has noticed that his efforts to help the regeneration of the area frequently inspire other individuals in the surrounding areas to improve their own properties too, leading to a general uplift.
So we love to buy rundown properties in the west end of Morecambe. They're stunning Victorian terraces, but they're expensive to upkeep. They're large properties. So what we tend to do when we acquire a property is we start on the outside, we freshen it up, we do the roof, the guttering, and then give it a coat of paint. And that just seems to lift that part of the street. And we've noticed time and time again when we do that, someone a couple of doors down will do the same. Our lettings shop that we refurbished, we did the rendering on the outside, and during that process 3 other shop owners on that street came and asked us if we could re-render theirs. So very quickly we uplifted 3 or 4 shops on the same street, and that just has a ripple effect on the wider community.
Taking this to an extreme, Simon has also engaged with the local community to bring about social projects such as a now locally famous mural, which was also supported financially by Lancaster City Council. Simon tells us more.
We acquired this property about 2 years ago, And the moment that we started negotiation on it, I felt that it was the perfect place for a piece of art to celebrate Morecambe and share with the community. And thankfully my investment partner on this also felt the same. So I set about researching graffiti artists and people that had done other pieces of art in Morecambe, and I wasn't getting very far, and it was sounding like it was going to be incredibly expensive as well. But we decided to take a few photographs as we got the project up and running. We had some scaffolding going up, and I took a photograph and put it on Instagram. And a lady from Deco Publique, the local arts organisation that organises the Vintage Festival every year, got in touch with me and said, "This is the perfect place for a piece of art." And I said, "Yes, it is. That's exactly what we're trying to do." And by a stroke of fate, they had a little bit of funding, and they were actually seeking to do a mural in Morecambe on a much smaller scale. But with our investment, our additional investment, with the fact that we were on site anyway, we prepared the wall, we put the base coat on, and we also invested to sort of scale up the project. And what happened in the end was we had about 30 artists from all over the country bidding to do this piece of work, and I just couldn't have imagined a better, more fitting piece of art for the area, and such a satisfying project to get involved in and to achieve.
Just a few doors down is another example of a property being brought back to life as a holiday let property in Morecambe, a form of business that is booming in the area.
We've realised that there is a growing demand for holiday apartments in the area, and we want to showcase our town to visitors. And so we just feel it's a real great opportunity to go high end, make the most of those sea views and attract those visitors. Rather than they might come to Morecambe for a day, we're hoping they'll stay for 1 or 2 nights, and that'll just feed so much more into the local economy. The idea is to make sure that everyone going to the Lake District stops off at Morecambe for a couple of nights on the day before or on their way home.
Over the course of the last decade, properties have unfortunately been falling into disrepair. But this provides a large opportunity to be able to bring properties back online as holiday rental properties while not reducing the housing stock for locals, feeding into the community in terms of investment and tourism rather than taking anything away. Simon showed us an example of the condition of property that he purchases. A property that Simon purchased 4 months ago that is nearby and was in a similar state to this one now looks completely unrecognisable. It's now nearing completion and will be online as a holiday rental property in the next few weeks.
So I set off with the ambition of creating this socially conscious property management company. I was quite naive, and I didn't realise that to deal with vulnerable people in a home setting, you need a lot of skills, experience and qualification, and I didn't realise quite how demanding those needs would be. So my lettings agency, with my experience and the hours that I had in the day, was not enough to support these people properly. So I had to shift away from that a little bit in order to make a sustainable business. But what's really lovely is that after over a decade working away, this has kind of come back round. So one of the biggest deals that I have completed on recently was the sale of a portfolio of serviced apartments. They came unstuck during COVID, and there was a sale agreed, but unfortunately that sale fell through. So a client of mine had 66 units that were vacant, costing them a lot of money. I managed to find a social housing provider that was interested in these properties. So we've ended up delivering 66 high-end apartments to a social housing provider that will, over the next 20 years, provide over 500,000 bed nights for homeless people and vulnerable people.
So there you have it. Simon, a huge supporter of Morecambe, seemingly has come full circle. And like Simon, it seems that Morecambe itself is coming full circle too. the place to be in the early 20th century, and now with a resurgence of domestic tourism and the investment of serious business into the area, such as the Eden Project North, Morecambe has to be the place to watch as we move through the 2020s. You've been watching The Regeneration of Morecambe.